Welcome to Propaganda Loves You, the show that asks and answers the question, why is Trump posting AI videos and who's making them for him? I'm Kodie, your host for this week, joined by Arthur, Joe, and Cheyenne.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
All right, well, welcome back to Propaganda Loves You, everyone. So we got a couple announcements before we get rolling into our main segment of the show today. Two big things that we're going to talk about today. One is kind of the government shutdown, the messaging around the government shutdown, specifically kind of looking at the use of different government agencies and websites to promote political messaging on, normal government sites, now putting out partisan messaging on, why the government is shut down. So we'll talk a bit about that. There's been a lot of talk about like the Hatch Act and any possible violations there. We'll also talk about some things associated with the shutdown. Trump and others in the Republican Party have been posting quite a few AI videos. I don't know if you guys have seen all the new ones that have come out recently from Trump, but like one from that had like Russell Vought, basically the architect of Project 2025 as the Grim Reaper. So like we'll talk a little bit about those AI videos. There's been a ton of analysis on those so far. From what I've seen, mostly focused on like it's just the level of unprofessionalism, I guess, or like incredulity that we have a government that's posting these things in the first place. I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction, but before we get into that, I do have kind of an icebreaker to start today, backed by popular demand. Some of our listeners, they like some of the different quizzes and icebreakers that we did early on, so we're going to try and bring that in. And the one I have for today is actually pretty simple. So this one's just a true or false. So I'm gonna give you guys a quote, and I'd like you to tell me you think if it's a true or a false quote, and then bonus points if you can tell me kind of like who said it. And so I'm not actually, let me take that back. I'm not going to give you a quote exactly because I don't have them written down. I don't want to be misquoting people, but I'll give you the general statement here. And joining me today, I forgot to mention this up front. So Joe, Arthur, and Cheyenne are back on the podcast today. So before we get into the icebreaker, anything you guys want to mention or say hello for today?
Hello. I read recently that a federal judge denied the Trump admin trying to put troops into the war zone that is Portland, Oregon, and just that ridiculous marketing campaign that's going on. Anyway, it's great that it's being denied, and that's just kind of our local news right now. But hello.
Nice. Hello. And that's gonna land well in a second, but
Cheerful news. No, I don't have any updates. Hey, good to see everybody. I mentioned to my wife the other day that I'm liking the seasons changing because it's the time of year when every day has its seasons. It's chilly in the morning and then it gets warm and then there's summer in the afternoon and fall at night. So I like when every day has a season. That's my kind of weather.
Hello. Back in Oregon, no longer co-running the podcast from headquarters.
Well, I agree, Joe. Love October, especially in the Adirondacks this time of year with the leaf changes, though we think we've moved past peak leaf season around here. But all right, let's jump into the icebreaker first, and then I do have a couple updates before we get into the main topics. To start, first one. Actually, Arthur, you just mentioned it with your Portland piece. So I've got a reaction to that. You have to tell me if this is true or not, if this actually came out from the administration. And if it did, who said it is the question. As a reaction to that, this was the response. This is a legal insurrection. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an Oregon judge. Portland or Oregon law enforcement, at the direction of local leaders, have refused to aid ICE officers facing relentless terrorist assault threats to life. This is an organized terrorist attack on the federal government and its officers, and the deployment of troops is an absolute necessity to defend our personnel, our laws, our government, public order, and the republic itself. Is this a true or false quote? And if it's true, who would have said it?
True.
Yeah, definitely plausible.
Any idea who
Some bootlicker said it.
Wow. You have to guess which bootlicker.
Yeah. Wow, there's got a lot.
I gotta admit, just like with the Trump administration, I'm bad at keeping up with all of the internal players and the type of things they have to say, just because I find the whole administration so distasteful. It's hard to like, oh, what did Pam Bondi say today? What did Kash Patel say today? What did Stephen Miller say? I don't care. I hate all those people. I don't want to keep up with them that much. But yeah, like Cheyenne said, some bootlicker said it.
Yeah, this one is Chief. I don't even know if you call him Chief Bootlicker or like he the boot maybe. This is Stephen Miller. That was his response to the Oregon judge deciding that this was against the law. So, all right. So that's number one. True, Stephen Miller. Okay. Second quote that I want to put out here. Is this true or false? And it's a former Army officer saying that President Trump is a fascist to the core and the most dangerous person to this country.
Yeah, I'll go true.
Go true with that one? Go a thumbs up?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Like it's a Army officer after Pete's big show and tell meeting.
That's a good.
They,
that's
resign and then say this right after they resigned.
That is a good guess, but no, this actually came from a while back. This was from General Mark Milley, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during Trump's first presidency and came out during the election and basically said this prior to the 2024 election that he believed Trump was fascist to the core and the greatest threat to the country. So the guy that served as the most senior military advisor to Trump during his first term. So no, I don't know what that says about things, but yeah, there's that. Okay. The very last quote for the day is based off of what's going on, like Idris Baltzer are talking about some of the deployments of National Guard and military troops to these different cities. The quote being that this is a good training ground for the U.S. military, these blue cities.
False.
Okay, we got one false.
I think true. I think I heard something about the training ground line. Like I don't know how verbatim it is, but yeah, they're talking about using cities as training grounds for the military.
And I got a thumbs up there from Cheyenne. That is true. That was actually President Trump during the big meeting of all the generals down in Quantico said that they could use these blue cities as training grounds and that a lot of the people in the room might have something to do with that. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but you can find the quote online along with a bunch of other completely crazy things that he said during that 2-hour all call, I guess, with all of the most senior military leaders in our country in Quantico, Virginia. So, yeah, all true. Maybe next time we'll actually throw some false ones in there just to, mix it up a little bit. But all right, that's it for that. But I do just have one other thing before we kind of get into the main topics today that I wanted to say. We have seen pretty significant increase in downloads and listeners. So I want to say thank you. That's mainly driven by listener word of mouth. Like we still have not been doing really any paid advertising whatsoever. We've done, I think there probably are some stickers up and down the West Coast and a few in California, maybe some posters that people have put up. But for the majority, we have not done any major advertising. So that's all driven by the listeners. And for a long time, I think Russia was our number 2 or number 3 foreign country. We've had a big jump in our UK listenership, so they are now number 2 overall, followed by Singapore. We're at somewhere around 29 countries, 40 states, and just under 1,000 unique listeners with almost 2,000 downloads total, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 plays overall across just Spotify and Apple Music. So that growth is completely driven by you. So thank you for spreading the news. It's great to see that. And we're excited to continue to hopefully keep expanding, get the message out there. At the same time, we did drop a special episode today on Sunday, which is actually a replay of our earlier episode 3 and 4. We took our episodes on propaganda fascism, combined that into one single episode. So if you wanted to listen to that entire thing without jumping back and forth, you can do so. And we released the video for that on YouTube. So we're going to be releasing some of our back catalog videos on YouTube over the next few months as we do the editing and work through that. So again, thank you for support. Thank you for listening. Let's jump into the rest of the show. Please stay tuned for a word from our sponsors. The Capitol Restoration Project has brought order to the nation. But where is the real stability found? It's not out on the streets. True stability is found inside.
Let's be honest, the outside world is messy. I used to worry about everything, the market, taxes, my noisy neighbors. Now, I have a full-service apartment and a guaranteed pension. My job is to ensure the people who cause the chaos are being efficiently managed.
We're not selling a job, we're selling an exclusive membership. Freedom Shield Security offers the only path to guaranteed financial and physical security. You trade the unpredictability of the outside world for the permanent comfort of the center.
Gone are the days worrying about money in and money out. Now you live and you work at the center. It's everything you need to be set up for life. You live on site, you eat on site, your assets are untouchable. You are literally being paid in comfort to supervise the chaos that you've escaped.
The housing is superb. My apartment has a fantastic view of the inner courtyard, and the automated security seals ensure a truly secure residence.
Enrollment is limited. Don't just watch the restoration, staff it.
Secure your future. Join the center's inner circle today. Freedom Shield Security, stability is an inside job.
Residency and membership benefits within the center are revocable upon termination or voluntary departure of service.
So for our one main topic that we want to hit on today, we want to talk about the current government shutdown, what's going on there, and more specifically, just the messaging around who's at fault. The government shutdown's been accompanied by a significant increase or a significant push from the federal government in a lot of different ways to utilize basically nonpartisan or what's supposed to be nonpartisan government messaging platforms to push that this is because of the radical left or the Democrats, right? And so there's been a lot of reporting on this specific thing. I'm going to read off of an article from NPR. This came out on it was updated October 1st. And the article title is called Trump Administration Uses Taxpayer Dollars to Blame Democrats for Government Shutdown. It's by Shannon Boyd, Jenna McLaughlin, and Stephen Fowler. What they've got here is from the Housing and Urban Development website. Essentially, this was what the message was on their website at the time when this came up. It says the radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need. So that was one of the pop-ups that were there. So I'm just going to read through the top couple paragraphs of this article here, and then we can talk through this. The Trump administration is blaming Democrats for the government shutdown in internal federal agency communications as well as public agency websites in what experts say could be a violation of federal ethics laws. A bright red banner and pop-up message first appeared on Tuesday on the Department of Housing and Urban Development website. It was updated early Wednesday morning and warns the radical left in Congress shut down the government. HUD will use available resources to help Americans in need. Wednesday morning, a banner added to the Department of Justice website reads, Democrats have shut down the government with a link to its shutdown plans. Also on Wednesday morning, employees at the Small Business Administration were provided suggested language to include in their out-of-office automatic replies, mirroring the partisan accusations made by OMB. My comment here, OMB, that's the Office of Management Budget, but it's the one that is the super boring part of government that kind of just handles all of the budgeting and is the one that I think Russ Vought is leading there. So the email blasted the entire agency. The Small Business Association suggested employees write that I am out of office for the foreseeable future because Senate Democrats voted to block a clean federal funding bill leading to a government shutdown. And that as soon as the shutdown is over, we are prepared to immediately return to the record-breaking services we are providing under the leadership of the Trump administration, according to a screenshot shared with NPR. Staffers at multiple agencies and cabinet members received emails on Tuesday from the White House Office of Management and Budget. Many shared screenshots of those emails with NPR or confirmed the text of the message they received. The messages said that any lapse in government funding would be forced by congressional Democrats. President Trump opposes a government shutdown and strongly supports the enactment of H.R. 5371, which is a clean, continuing resolution to fund the government through November 21st, and already passed the U.S. House of Representatives. Unfortunately, Democrats are blocking this resolution in the U.S. Senate due to unrelated policy demands. If congressional Democrats maintain their current posture and refuse to pass a clean, continuing resolution to keep the government funded before midnight on September 30th, 2025, federal appropriated funding will lapse. So I'm not going to read through the rest of this completely, but It does mention in here that, similar messages were received from different departments, Interior, Commerce, Labor, that the Department of Veterans Affairs also used sharply partisan language, saying radical liberals in Congress were to blame for the services not being available during a shutdown, that radical liberals in Congress are trying to shut down the government to achieve their crazy fantasy of open borders, transgender for everybody, and men competing in women's sports. VA Press Secretary Pete Kasparowski. Well, just say the VA Press Secretary Pete said in a statement sent to the media, if they succeed, they will stop critical veterans care and health assistance. That's kind of the messaging that's coming out of the administration, and they're using pretty much every single department in order to push this messaging in different ways. I guess my question for you guys, just to start, have you seen this type of messaging related to the Trump administration or whoever blaming Democrats for the shutdown? Have you guys seen that just in your day-to-day, even if you haven't gone around looking for it? And the follow-up to that is, what have you seen as far as why the Democrats are actually holding out? Like, have you seen any messaging related to that and what it is that they're actually asking for?
Yes, I've seen this type of rhetoric, which has the same kind of vibe as like a Facebook comment section. And as you were reading, I thought, when are they going to bring up the bathrooms? But they did bring up women's sports, so it was like close. Do you mean like the reason why the Democrats are holding out for like other policies, whatever that explanation is?
Yeah, like what I'm
Is
interested
that what
in
you're
is like
asking?
kind of like how far has the rhetoric from this administration kind of penetrated, right? Like, so where that we're all aware of them just blaming the Democrats and them saying like it's because of this. But has the Democratic messaging in any way made that into the mainstream? I guess is my question. Like, does anyone understand like why the Democrats are holding out or what they're holding out for?
I haven't kept up with this specific issue this time as well enough to know what specific Democratic leaders are saying about it. I know I've heard that the rhetoric that the right uses to say what the Democrats are holding out for is free health care for undocumented immigrants, and it seems like another one of their word salad things, just another topical issue they throw in there to deflect from the fact that they're being fascists. So no, I also don't have a lot of hope for Democratic Party leadership right now, so I'm not putting a lot of time keeping up with what they're saying for the most part. So yeah, that's all I got on that.
It's hard to engage in Democratic leadership like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I guess like it's like depressing how good the Republicans are at this. And like these shutdowns didn't exist before the 80s, and it was all used by like Reagan and Republicans, and it was like Clinton era, Obama era, current. It's always Republican driven. They always like threaten this stuff. And currently it's like the Republicans control every branch of government. So how are they saying that Democrats are holding anything up? It's really crazy. And it was because of this medical bill. I think they were like trying to cap the medical bill. They're trying to cap some limitation on that, and the Republicans are refusing. So it's pretty wild. And it's very good at a distraction for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The point about attention is really important, because I was trying to find a reliable report, because I've seen it a few times, but I can't find one quickly that says the piece of information that I want. But basically, ICE and Department of Homeland Security operations are largely unaffected during the shutdown. Like something like 90% of their operations are continuing. So the actual fascist kidnappings that this administration is doing all over the place are continuing to happen while they're trying to distract everyone about bathrooms and children's sports and democratic whatever hearsay they want to say. Yeah, let's stay focused, I guess, and not give in to the distraction so much.
I think so you guys are all hitting on exactly the kind of the main point that I wanted to bring up here, right? Like, most people have probably heard at this point that it's the Democrats' fault for the shutdown. There might not be anything behind that, like as far as like the actual why or anything. Just, it's the Democrats, blame the Democrats. They want, like you said, Cheyenne, they want, women in men's bathrooms and whatnot, like just all the crazy culture war stuff without any actual substance to like what it is they're asking for. And at the same time, like, what is wrong with the Democratic Party that they can't get some sort of legitimate message out, like as to why they're holding us back? Like, I don't even have a good feeling of what they're saying here, other than it's going to affect the Affordable Care Act and the subsidies that go to help pay for people's insurance under that, right? So it's not clean. It's not like clear what it is that they're actually holding out for, other than fighting back against Trump, like and like, which really just kind of plays into the message that I think the Trump administration wants in the first place. They're just being obstinate. And so it's those two things, right? It's clearly the reach and the very simple messaging that this administration is using of like, it's their fault. They're the ones that are holding this up, despite the fact, Arthur, like you said, they control both houses of Congress. They could do like a party line vote to lower the requirement of the 60 threshold for the budget bill. They could do that. That's like the nuclear option, so that they could pass a clean budget bill on their own. They're not going to do that because they're worried that if they do that, then once the shoe's on the other foot, then they'll never have to be consulted for anything. And then at the same time, you've got the Democratic leaders of Schumer and Jeffries saying like, hey, they're not negotiating with us on this bill. That's, we're not going to just go forward and pass this bill without having a meeting, without being able to negotiate on this. And this kind of goes into what Trump has been doing, which is ship posting like AI videos of Jeffries and Schumer, like literally deep faking them doing a press conference outside of Congress on like their meeting. And if I don't know, I'm not going to play that one specifically because I've got the other clip that I want to play, but like I've seen the clip, the AI deepfake version of that press conference multiple times. I've never seen the actual press conference. Like, what did they actually say the first time? I have not seen that on social media. I haven't even seen it as a reply to someone reposting this fake AI video. So like I guess where I'm going with this is they're just winning, I guess, the messaging battle here, like significantly. There's very little opposition. There's very little, I think, truth. I don't even know if truth matters in this scenario. It doesn't, clearly, to them and what they're posting. All they're doing is using the same techniques that we see from like Russian trolls, really. Like when we talked about the Internet Research Agency and how they troll people, right? It's the same exact techniques. It's just coming directly from the White House in this scenario.
I totally agree with the troll thing. Like, I haven't consumed any recent AI Garble because I just can't. It like hurts my brain. And I do think that's definitely the strategy. And to touch on like your lack of clear like messaging from Democrats as a response, maybe the strategy of the current administration is so effective and annoying that nobody's watching it. Like they're not responding because they too can no longer engage specifically with all this stuff coming out, and they're just like, that's my only guess.
Like you think there might be like these guys are sitting in a back room somewhere saying like, how do we respond to Trump's most recent AI video? Or they're like concerned that they might give him like more leverage. And then you've got like Newsom, who's just like, I'm just going to do the same thing they're doing.
He's like, guys, can we talk about something else for once? Like, this is pointless. Let's just like, chill.
Yeah.
Kind of personifying my own experience onto them.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it's not like, I don't know, they always point to like, they call it like troll memes so that they can be like, oh, it's just a joke. But it's like, it's a narrative war that's being fought and won by the far right for sure. And I don't know, I think I saw some AI videos like back in the day, and it was like, Tom Cruise. And I think if somebody made a Tom Cruise AI movie, that stuff would be struck down immediately. Like there would be a law in place. It would be like, this is disrupting capitalism. We're not getting our money. You can't do this garbage. But like, what is the law here? It is like a complete fabrication representing somebody's point of view for political gain based off of a tax funder job that these people have. Like, that's not cool at all. There should be very strict rules and laws in place, period, in the US around political profit and all this shit.
I just think the problem is like these guys are clearly, they don't care. Like they're not going to follow like law. Law only matters to them if it is beneficial to them, right? They're just going to use, like you said, Arthur, I think that's a good point. Like all of these things are being funded by the government. And what are they spending their time doing? Like shit posting and putting like partisan messaging, straight up state propaganda like using pretty much every government outlet for that.
Yeah, if the left responds in any meaningful way, they'll be told it's not free speech, it's hate speech, and they'll be thrown in the gulag. Like, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing the pre-crime stuff with anti-fascism. Like, if you don't like capitalism, that's an indicator of terrorism, and you're on a list. Like, it's so silly. What you just said, Kodie, made me think about this sort of comparison I was trying to parse out in my head. Just how laws work as a form of norms in society, like a law as a norm that people follow. Laws get enforced basically in two ways. You either use brute force or the threat of violence, or you just create a narrative that's so convincing that everyone goes along with it because they believe it to be true. Like why everybody pays their taxes every year. They're afraid of the consequences if they don't, so they pay their taxes. The more that authority figures who are in charge of all of these institutions just completely flout the law and pretend like it doesn't exist when it suits them, and the more that we see them doing that in public, the less convincing the narrative overall is. And so you have this gradual erosion of public trust in laws in general. Like they're not real, they're just made up, literally. And when people stop believing in them, stuff starts to fall apart. Even during the end of Biden's administration, when all of the Gaza stuff started happening, and nation states who have an international law obligation to prevent genocide not only did nothing to prevent genocide, but supported the ongoing genocide. People all over the world see, oh, these international laws are fake. When you don't like them, you don't follow them, and you don't care about them. Internally in the U.S., we have the Hatch Act. I remember being in the military and like getting like finger wagged and intimidated in general just about political commentating at all. If you're in uniform and you talk about politics, that's a violation of the Hatch Act and you shouldn't do it. Meanwhile, people at the highest levels of government just wave a middle finger to the Hatch Act every day and do whatever they want. And so what does that mean for the average military member who's seeing their leaders act like this? Meanwhile, they're being told that they can't have political opinions in public. The whole trust in the system just starts to fall apart, and people start to care less, and you have this general apathy in society, and now we're all just sitting there like, we agree that it's a ridiculous situation we're in, and we're all just trying to figure out what to do now about it.
Yeah, and that point you made about like the Hatch Act is a good one too, because I think that's what a lot of the commentary around this was. If they're directing individuals to change their out of office message to blame partisan blaming of Democrats for this shutdown, are they not like forcing government individuals to violate the Hatch Act? Like they're asking them to be partisan. I mean, it feels like a pretty decent violation there. But again, like you said, if they don't care about the laws, or they only care about laws that benefit them, right? Or depending on where you are in the hierarchy determines how many laws you have to follow. Please stay tuned for a word from our sponsors. Are you tired of wasting precious recovery time on long, frustrating drives to the nearest physical structure of care? AmeriLife Pharma believes that every citizen deserves immediate, reliable care.
Before I had the protocol, an emergency meant a 2-hour drive just to see a human doctor at the closest hospital. Now, my entire care team is right here on my kitchen counter.
This isn't cost-cutting, this is optimized care delivery. Our AI diagnostic system eliminates the necessity of costly human personnel and inconvenient infrastructure. It delivers a statistically verifiable diagnosis in under 90 seconds.
No more guessing, no more delays. The protocol is the future of affordable wellness. Unbiased, immediate, and completely optimized for regional resource viability.
I feel safer knowing my care isn't dependent on one doctor's opinion. I'd rather depend on the most advanced automated health system in the world, and it's ready in an instant.
The Predictive Care Protocol, because your health shouldn't depend on where the hospital used to be.
AmeriLife Pharma, the future of care is instant.
By engaging with the Predictive Care Protocol, the user acknowledges and waives all rights to human consultation and review. AmeriLife Pharma assumes no responsibility for any unwanted outcomes that fall within the statistical boundaries of non-liability, while all generated health and behavioral data remains the immutable property of Predictive Care Optimization. AmeriLife Pharma is solely responsible for dispensing the prescribed treatments.
Arthur, back to your point, I think this ties really well into the next thing. I think it was JD Vance that like was replying to someone asking about like the AI videos that Trump keeps posting. And you said something around like, oh, he's just joking around. And that's exactly, I think, what the response was like, hey, the president's having a good time. Like, we're not taking ourselves too seriously. They're framing this as a joke, right? And so I want to show you guys a video, the one that he posted on Truth Social. So let me share my screen really quick. So for the listeners, obviously that's a cover of Blue Oyster Cult, I think. Here Comes the Reaper. And you can see the video online, but it shows Russ Vought dressed as a Grim Reaper. Shows like the Jeffries and Schumer in portraits with sombreros. It's got Trump playing the cowbell and JD Vance on drums. So yeah, quite the masterpiece here of AI videos, I guess. So what do you guys think? Was that like the best thing you guys have seen today?
That's something they released?
What? Yeah, what is that?
So that was posted by
Trump posted.
Trump on
Trump
Truth
posted.
Social. But what so a lot of people have looked at that, and there's been a lot of commentary around it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the president would post this. I'm just like, I don't know. He would post this. He's done this before. It's not the first time that he's posted some crazy shit like that. But what I thought was more interesting was where the video came from. That I didn't see talked about a lot. Like, who actually created this video? Where did it, where was it generated? And this goes back to the conversation about trolling and what these guys are. So at the end of the video, I don't know if you guys saw, it's also in the bottom left-hand corner here, but it's, what is it? The Dilly 300, the Dilly meme team. Have any of you guys heard of Dilly before? Do you know who Dilly or the Dilly meme team, anything like that? Full name, I think, is Brendan Dilly. If not, I'm hoping you don't, because I had the unfortunate displeasure of learning about him, last night and this morning.
Yeah, I've never heard of Brendan Dilly, thankfully.
Well, I think we should know who the guy is that's creating these, and then the president is posting. So I did a little looking into who this person is. I think I did the Dilly meme team. That's what I Googled first. And it brought me here to Dilly meme. Trump's online war machine is what it's called. It's a website. It's dillymemeteam.com. Short version is this guy's been around for a while, since I think he wrote a book in 2013, and he's been a right-wing provocateur since that. And he actually, in the team, right, he's calling this like they're essentially Trump's online, he literally calls himself warlord and master troll for this. And they create a bunch of pro-MAGA content that is very much like what you just saw. I mean, they created that video. There are multiple others. I wanted to find out more about who this person was himself. And so that brought me to, his page. He's got a podcast in his own words. I wanted to mention that, his podcast talks about refreshingly real takes on the real America. Tired of fake news and endless propaganda? Then you've come to the right place. If you're not too thin-skinned, that is, The Dilly Show is a raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic political entertainment talk show aimed at supporting America while entertaining America. Enjoy the top stories of the day, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read all that. So this is what he's talking about as himself. It seems like a lot of AI-generated stuff. I could spend a lot of time dissecting, oh, look, he's got the MAGA shop. Here, I feel like we could probably accidentally have created ads for a Patriot cigar company or something like that. But anyway, not the main thing I want to talk about with this guy. What I want to connect this back to is, that comment from JD Vance, like the president's, having a good time. This is all a joke and whatnot. But this guy Dilly has been on Right Wing Watch radar for quite some time. This is also something I learned about while I was looking into this, but the Right Wing Watch comes from the People for the American Way, which is actually a pretty old organization. The Wikipedia says it was founded in 1980 to challenge the Christian right agenda of the moral majority. Basically, Norman Lear created this organization, which is a progressive organization out of Washington, D.C. that tracks this thing. And Right Wing Watch is one of the big efforts that they have to actually track individuals that are kind of like fascistic, whatever you want to call it, authoritarian, and against the mission of, People for the American Way. And so they have a bunch on Dilly himself, covering like who he is. But I think the best way to understand who he is from his own words, which this group, Right Wing Watch, has been able to take out some clips that are very useful in understanding that. And so we'll share this page on our show notes, but I do want to play just a couple quick clips here to see who this person is and what they believe in based on their own words.
I don't give a fuck about being factual. This is political entertainment. I make shit up all the time. I've told you that. Fuck. Like, we don't want to be fake news. I don't give a fuck. It's not my objective. My objective is to destroy Democrats. Okay? Destroy liberalism as an idea, Democrats, and anything that opposes President Trump. That's my goal. I've never made any bones about that. So I promise you don't have to fact check me because I don't give a fuck. I screw up names all the time. I fucking make up shit sometimes from time to time. I don't care. I don't care. Democrats know it. Republicans know it. I don't mind admitting it. I don't give a shit. This is political entertainment. There's a difference. I'm not Tracy Beans. I do my best to break down news in a concise and honest way when it's relevant. But when I get a chance to shit on the left, I don't mind making shit up. No, not at all. Not at all. Go ahead. You can play that one, Right Wing Watch.
Level of self-awareness there that I can actually appreciate, to be honest with you. So I guess there's a lot more clips on here where he kind of goes into talking about how things don't need to be truthful, they need to be viral, and that this is a war. But I think the big thing here, and the reason I wanted to show it, is because we're talking about how, Vance is saying this is all like a joke, it's just trolling, it's whatnot. And then you go back to who's actually creating this. What are they creating it for? What is their intention? They've laid that out pretty clearly, right? Like that's why they're doing this. They're not doing this for fun. They're not doing it as a joke. They're doing it because they want to destroy the other side. And some of the other clips that are a little bit further down that page get into even more radical views on that from a political violence perspective. You could make the argument that maybe this individual, and again, I know nothing about him other than what I've discovered over the last 2 days, maybe they just found, hey, when I'm more extreme online, that's what gets the views, that's what gets the money. Maybe, I don't know. It almost doesn't matter to me at that point. Like whatever's pushed you to that level of extremism, how you got there is less of a story than what you're actually pushing on people, in my mind, with the message that you're trying to push and the fact that you're trying to normalize political violence. And it is clearly not just joking around, I guess is my point. So any thoughts on this guy, or does that change the way you view any of the videos that are being posted, or the messaging that's kind of like coming out?
It's almost like emotionally, when you're trying to understand the psychology of fascism, of fascist movements, of fascist actors, that there's this oscillation they have between this weirdly energetic joking around that's also kind of aggressive. I mean, it's the way a schoolyard bully jokes around, right? Oh, why are you taking it so seriously? I'm just messing with you. It's just a joke. Don't take it so seriously. Get over it. Versus when they actually get challenged, they immediately flip it to violence. So they're either being violent or they're just joking around and you shouldn't take it that seriously and it's not a big deal. But as soon as you challenge the thing they're joking about, it's violent. And I think in general that's just the psychology of a bully. But when you turn it into a social movement, that's like the psychology of fascism. They want you to tolerate their jokes and to go along with whatever they say, because in their jokes, they're conveying propaganda about power, about how society should operate, about who should have authority over whose rights should be taken away, who's a real citizen, all kinds of racism and homophobia and just bigotry in general get baked into the form of the jokes that they say. And as soon as they're challenged, it turns into violence. So those are the two modes of the fascist psychology. They're either just joking around or they're violently trying to oppress people. But I think that guy is a good example of that mindset in a nutshell.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. It's like they can dish it out, but they can't take it, you know? And in the end, they end up being the snowflakes, which is ironic. I don't know. I guess I kind of see like I was watching Bread and Dilly, and honestly, my thought was like mental health issues and like, should this person be online and he should seek a therapist? It would be, I think, really positive. I don't know if that's like a bad thing to say, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah, fascists love when you tell them to go get therapy.
Yeah, they'll definitely go.
I just wanted to sort of mark the occasion, I guess. We're recording on October 5th. It'll release on the 7th. So if you're hearing this on the day that it releases, it is the 2-year anniversary of Hamas's surprise attack on Israel, which instigated Israel's genocidal campaign that is ongoing in Gaza. So that is still going on. It hasn't stopped. And people all over the world, in response to feckless governments who have done nothing to prevent the genocide, including our own government and European governments generally, average citizens are starting to find ways to make a difference. And so we've seen a number of flotilla campaigns started. There have been a couple of one-off flotillas, like one ship that has tried to break the naval siege on Gaza to deliver. I think the purpose of the flotillas in general is to break the naval siege and to create a corridor for safe humanitarian aid to enter the Strip. But Israel keeps close tabs on the Mediterranean border of Gaza, even to the extent where Gazans who are starving will try to fish in the Mediterranean, and their boats will get blown up and shot at, and people will get killed for trying to get food out of the ocean. Recently, a large flotilla, the Global Samud Flotilla, trying to see how many ships it was. There are 50 boats altogether, I think, 400 activists total. And the other day, the Israelis intercepted the fleet of ships and took all the activists into custody. Some of them have been released, although over 300, I think, are still detained in Israel, including one of Dropsite News's reporters, Alex Colston, and the famous Swedish climate activist, Greta Thunberg, was part of the flotilla, and one of the people who were released from her ship said that the Israelis were very aggressively torturing Greta in front of everyone and forced her to like kiss the Israeli flag and were dragging her across the floor by her hair, just really violently making a show out of her. Italians, the general citizens of Italy, had done a general strike to pressure their government to support the flotilla with a naval escort, which they initially did, and I think Spain did as well. But as the flotilla got close to the shores of Gaza, those naval vessels abandoned the flotilla, and then after that is when the Israelis intercepted them. Starting this past Friday, I guess yesterday, Italy again started a general strike to pressure their government to support the release of all of these activists who are taken into custody, many of which are journalists, by the way. So I can't emphasize enough how aggressively Israel has gone after journalists, and this continues here. General strikes work a little bit. They work better if more people are involved. It's just something strategy-wise, when nothing else seems to work, we think about how to change the world, how to do things. And there's also an ethic of nonviolence, of non-harm. People always want peaceful revolutions to happen. And there's a lot of debate on the left about the usefulness of violence in terms of revolution, how much of it is necessary, whatever. A general strike is by far the most peaceful and at the same time most aggressive way to create change in a society. Everybody stops going to work, then everything that the fascists care about stops getting produced. They have to respond in some way. I just think we should learn a lot from what Italy is doing right now and start thinking of that more generally as a global citizenry. You know, we have this technology that connects us across nation states all over the place. If we really want to think about what democracy means, what it means to have people organize themselves in a way that supports and helps human beings in general flourish, organizing ourselves around our labor and withholding it strategically is a good way to get started making those changes. So look into some of that if you haven't kept up with it. And I've plugged before, but General Strike US has social media pages on all social media accounts. So You can look up a general strike account to find more information about that strategy and sign the petition if you haven't. But yeah, that's a general update on what's going on in Gaza.
I appreciate what you were just saying. Like, I really agree with that general idea. Like, watching these videos and stuff, I have for the first time, like, really understood people being like rage bait or hate watch. Like, it literally makes me feel horrible inside watching these things and then feeling helpless. And I feel intentional for people to feel that way. And the idea of being able to like use BDS type, like, boycotting or it's a more of a practice of mindfulness. And it is something that does put me back in a spot where I feel like, you know, centered and in control and like intentional and stuff. And those are like very helpful things right now when it seems like everybody's insane. It makes me feel insane. So like I do really appreciate that and like ditto.
I was just going to say that the Flotilla thing, like, it's 400 plus humanitarian activists from around the world, and this is what the state of Israel does to them, and they're just humanitarian activists. Like, it's just abhorrent. I was just gonna say, like, personally, we gotta get rid of Netanyahu.
A little bit of hope, I guess. Hope is a weird word to use for this, but one silver lining to Israel having to respond to the flotilla and send their navy to go intercept the flotilla is that they had to ignore the shore for a while to go do that. And so during that time, a lot of Gazans were able to go get a fuck ton of fish, for lack of a more precise word. And so you can see videos on TikTok of people reeling in a ton of fish from the Mediterranean while Israel was distracted with the flotilla. So bit of a silver lining there, but still, just goes to show how deep the starvation and the lack of humanitarian aid is there. That was the kind of occasion for finally being able to get some fresh fish. Yeah, it's hard to keep up with this. It's hard to, I think, like you said, Cheyenne, it's intentional, the kind of hopelessness a lot of us feel when you keep up with something that's really depressing and then you feel like you can't do anything about it. I think that reinforces feelings of isolation. And so whatever you can do to have a meaningful community, to be around people that care about you, to stay connected with people that share values that you care about, and to do small things, like you mentioned, like the BDS stuff, boycott, divest, and sanction. They have an app you can go on. I'm forgetting the name of the app off the top of my head, but there's a list. You can look at the BDS list of companies that you should avoid patronizing in order to support the liberation of Palestine. And if it's in your interest to start doing that, you should start doing it.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening and hanging out with us.
If you enjoy the show, help us spread the word. Leave a rating or review and share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think would get something out of these conversations.
Your ratings, reviews, and shares help this show grow, and the more people listening, the harder it is for propaganda to win.
So until next time,
stay aware, stay safe, and remember,
propaganda loves you.